This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so we are continuing with Shar Yichud Hamaseh, right, which is focusing our actions, and in Sefaria it is 555. Gate 5, chapter 5, paragraph 5. And what he's been discussing is the great battle of the Yetzer Hara, of the evil inclination. And we've mentioned that the way at least that I'm comfortable viewing the Yetzer Hara is as a messenger of God. He is one of God's servants, whereas in other religions, there's God, there's the devil, and the two of them are fighting it out. Here, everyone is under God's domain. Shema Yisroel, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. God is one. Everything is under God's domain. And the Yetzer Hara, his job is the personal trainer. That's how I like to put it, who pushes us and brings out the best in us as a result of the challenges that come our way. And we mentioned famously when Jacob is struggling with the angel, so the angel's a messenger of God, so Jacob wins. Now, if the angel is a messenger of God, how does he lose? It must be that his mission was to lose. His mission was to push Jacob, and then eventually to fold. And our problems always arise when we decide to fold too early, and when we go ahead and give in. And that, as I'll say in a moment, this is the greatest battle of our life. The Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, Ethics of the Fathers, Ezehu Gibor, who is a powerful person, Hakovesh et Yitzro, someone who can control one's own impulses, whether this is in all areas, whether it's in speech, whether it's in things that we look at, whether it's in things that we do, whatever it is, these are the struggles that are the challenges and the struggles that are always there. And and it is a lifelong battle, because every moment of life is precious in that it gives us these opportunities, and without the challenges, there would not be opportunities. But this is the big battle that one has throughout one's life. Al Kain, therefore he says, therefore, al tachridecha milchamot, zulato milchamto. There isn't no battle should worry you as much as this battle. The karav, and a war, that's a war or a battle, bilti karvo, more than this battle that we have, this battle with ourselves, this battle to use all opportunities to become the best version of ourselves. V'hacharev im mishu rachok mimcha, min acherev im mish lo yivred mimcha. Right? And the battle that we have against someone that's far from you is nothing compared to the battle that we have from that which is always with us. And to put all the effort into keeping at a distance from us someone who can only draw close with the permission of the Creator, from that, from the one who does not need to ask permission from the Creator to find himself in our midst, meaning this inclination is always there within us. We mentioned in the past that when Adam and Eve ate from the Eitz Hadat, Tov V'Ra, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, according to the way many of the commentators explain it, whereas beforehand the temptation to do bad was an outside influence manifested by the Nachash, the serpent. Once we ate from the Eitz Hadas, that became an internal voice that we contend with, as opposed to an outside voice. And it's an internal voice that we so identify with it that that's almost who we are. That's what I want to do. And then the outside voice says, but you really shouldn't, right? But we identify so fully. It's like a virus, right? And in a scientific level, a virus takes over a cell and makes the cell thinks that it's a virus, and it starts to reproduce the viruses. So it's like a mutiny that we are commandeered, that we identify mostly with that. Va'amru al Chasid, they tell about a certain Chasid, a righteous, a tzaddik, a righteous person, shepaga anashim, who encountered people, shavim, returning, mimilchemet oivim, from a battle against their enemies, v'shalalu shalal, and they had taken spoils, achar, following a milchama chazakah, a very, very vicious, hard war. Amar lehem, and he said to them, shavtem, Min ha-milchama ketana, sholalim shalal. You've returned from the little battle, and you've taken some spoils. Hit atadu, but ready yourself. L'milchemet ha-gedolah, for the big war. Amru lo, they said to him, Umahi ha-milchama ha-gedolah, what is this great war? Amar lem, he said to them, Milchemet ha-yetzer v'chayalav, the milchama that we each have with our inclinations, our tendencies, and all of its warriors, right? And like I said, we're always faced with challenges, right? Whether it's on a big scale or on a small scale, right? How do I respond to this person? What's the look on my face when this person is talking to me, right? What tone of voice do I use? You know, I want to tell somebody about what this person did, right? Do I tell them? Do I not tell them? This person did this. How do I take it? How do am I going to get all upset and take it personally and walk away wounded and upset with that person? Or am I going to say, look, this person must be having a rough day, and let me just move on and not allow it to affect me? Constantly, we're always bombarded almost with these calls that we need to make, and we always want to be the best version of ourselves, and inevitably when we're not, so then the thing to do is to look back and evaluate the situation, not to beat ourselves up, but to look at it and say, how do I wish I would have reacted? And that way, if and when such a situation rolls around again, we can react in a way that will make us proud. I've shared before when years and years ago when I was living in Israel, and my parents. Steve, are you trying to be unmuted? Was that everything okay? Okay. I was living in Israel. My parents were living in Israel part of the year, blessed memory, and they were on their way back to the States. So I didn't have a car at the time, but I took a bus into Jerusalem where they lived, spent some time with them, and then I helped them load, when the cab came to take them to the airport, I helped load them up. So my parents were already older people, and they had a couple of little suitcases. This is before the suitcases all had wheels. I remember the suitcases were rectangular, right, with the length more than the width, because we used to actually lift it up and carry it, as opposed to rectangular with the height being a lot more than the width, because now it just rolls. So they had a few small suitcases, and the big cab pulls up, and it's a whole shuttle service. And the guy gets out and starts yelling, "Oh, it's so many suitcases. How am I going to fit this all in?" So I kind of, I lost it a little bit, and I started kind of yelling back at the guy, "What do you mean? You're taking people to the airport. You know they have two suitcases. They're not big suitcases. We're going up and back, up and back." We load up the suitcases. I kiss my parents goodbye, and they drive off. And I'm thinking to myself, Ciner, what an idiot, right? Your parents are going to the States for a few months, so they'll see you again. And their last memory of their son, the rabbi, is duking it out with a cab driver on the street in front of their apartment in Jerusalem, right? And I was so upset with myself. And I said to myself, okay, on the bus ride back home, I said to myself, so what should I have done? What would have been the thing to do? The guy comes out, his guns blazing, yelling, yelling, yelling. And I decided what I should do is I should have said to my parents, loudly enough for him to hear, he must be having a rough day, working hard, having a rough day. Let me give a hand, with the suitcases. Right? Right? What's the guy going to say? No, I'm not having a rough day. I like yelling at people. Right? So I'm basically judging him favorably and not dealing with him. And that's what I should have done. So I resolved, okay, let's store that away. And a few months later, my close friend from the States was visiting. I was going out shopping late on a Thursday night, as I'd often do for Shabbos. So he came along with me, and the shop where I was shopping was a discount place, and it was a balagan. I mean, carts, people, crowded, things falling. It was crazy. It was a madhouse, and they can get away with it because the prices were good. So that's probably added to the madhouse. So as I'm moving my cart clips the bottom bag of a whole stack of noodles, pulls out the bottom bag, and the whole pile goes onto the floor. And there's a guy there who works there who starts to yell at me about the noodles. And I said, I know what to do. So I said to my friend very loudly, oh, I feel so bad. He's working so hard, and I clumsily knocked it down. And I helped him to restock the shelf. Right? That guy became my personal shopper. He followed me around the store. And I say to my friend, I wonder where the diapers were. Third aisle on the left. I wonder where this is. Fourth aisle on the right. Right? Why? Because instead of responding, I took into account that he's having a rough day. And so we're always, always, always being presented with these sorts of challenges. And inevitably, like I said, we mess up. And when we do, the best thing to do is, like I said, not beat ourselves up, but say, okay, what should I have done? And take some mental notes, and then go with that. Umenatema achi, and my brother, my sister, it's amazing. Ki kol oyev sheyesh lecha, every enemy that you have, if you beat him once, you beat him twice, he'll step back. He's not going to decide to go and fight you again, right? Besides the Palestinians, right? But typically, right, when it doesn't work out very well for them, time and time again, so a person or enemy will say, maybe this is not a good battle to fight. From the knowledge of your strength being greater than his. Therefore, he gives up hope and he steps back, doesn't continue to fight. Aval hayetzer, but this yetzer hara, ein maspik lo mimcha nitzuach pam. Right? If he loses once, that won't stop him. Umeya pa'amim, or 100 times. Ben shenatzech otcha, ben shenitzachto. Whether you've beaten him, he's beaten you, it doesn't make a difference. He just keeps coming at you. The challenges of life are always coming at us. Ki im yinatzecha, if he will defeat you, yamitecha, right? He can actually kill you, meaning it can bring about death in this world and the next world. And if you beat him one time, Ya'arov lacha koyamecha l'natseach otcha. Nevertheless, right, he'll always be there. Just one second. Yeah, right. Keep coming at you. As our sages have said once again in Ethics of the Fathers, Pirkei Avot, chapter 4, Mishnah 2, Al tamin ba'atzmecha ad yom motcha. Don't trust in yourself. Don't believe in yourself. Don't think, I've no more challenges. I've got this under control, right? Until the time of your death. Because if you don't have any more challenges, then that's the time when it's time. Well, that's the grand curtain call when it's time to return back to our maker. Ve'eno mekil b'katana shebikatnut inyanecha l'natseach otcha ba k'dei shieh lo madrega l'natseach otcha b'ma shelamala mimenu. This is an interesting concept. Rav Dessel speaks about this. And often, right, we'll have a challenge that will cause us to stumble on a small matter, but that then leads to another matter, and another matter, and another matter. So that's why we need to be very careful to have our gedarim, our parameters, and to be very, very careful with them. The Rav Dessler describes this with what he calls the nekudat habechira. Nekuda is the point of your free will. Right? We mentioned this before. And this is exactly where I am right now. That's my nekudat habechira. Draw a circle right around that. And anything in the upper realm of that circle, that's the good that I'll consider doing. More than that, that's beyond. There's no way I can do that. And the bottom realm of that circle, that's how low I'll sink. Anything beneath that, no. That's where I draw the line. That I would never dream of doing. That's where we are right now. Make one good decision, you move it up. Redraw the lines. That which was on the good beyond me, I'll now consider doing. That which was on the negative, which was considerable, that's already not what I'll consider. Make a decision the other direction, we move down here, redraw the circle. That which I considered doing on the positive, that's already beyond me. That which I thought I'd never do, that's already in the realm of possibility. So that's why every little decision should not be, hello Carol, good to see you. Every little decision should not be minimized, because each decision that we make resets our nekudat habechira, our point of free will, and that circle around it either gets raised up or lowered down, and that's the realm within which we are always working. I had a conversation with somebody about this idea of bechira. There is bechira, free will, of course. There is much that we don't have free will about, right? We don't have free will about who our parents, siblings, children, right? That's not our free will, right? Things that come at us at work, at the grocery store. We don't have free will about that, right? The free will that we have is how do we react to any given situation that comes our way. That is our free will. How are we going to react? How are we going to respond to that which comes our way? And that's really who and what we're all about. Viktor Frankl, in his classic Man's Search for Meaning, says, I don't know if I have the exact quote, but the last freedom that a person has that can never be taken away, and remember, he was in Auschwitz, the last freedom that can never be taken away is the freedom to decide how to react to a situation that you're in. That's it, right? So the free will, the way I like to put it, we don't choose the cards, but we have to choose how to play the hand. That's what it's about. And that's where our realm of free will is. And each decision we make redraws that, repositions, I should say, that point of bechira, redraws the circle, and decides what it is that we are choosing, or we can choose from, what's on our menu, what are the possibilities. And that's why, as he says, even a small decision we should not dismiss, because it then has this effect on us, right? The Gemara actually says, "Kachi darko shel yetzer hara." This is the way, the manner of the yetzer hara. Hayom, today he says, "Aseh kach," do this. The next day he says, "Do that." Ubesof, and ultimately he says, "Go worship idolatry." Right? Meaning it's always these incremental steps that lead us down a certain path for the negative and also for the good, right? Because that's the constant repositioning of that nikuda. Va'al kain, therefore he continues, and therefore roy lecha. Oh, just Carol. Carol, are you on Safaria? Yeah. Do you have where we are? Yeah. Okay. Good. Va'al kain roy lecha. Therefore it's fitting shetia nizhar mimenu, to be careful. Va'al timalei mimashalotav b'cha mu'uma. Don't give in, even a little bit. Rak yigadel beinecha hama'at sheba hama'at minitzucho. You should consider it a big deal, even the smallest of his victories against you. V'hamitzar, and the smallest amount mihit gavruto, when he overwhelms us and we make a decision that we know we shouldn't do. K'dei shitia lecha madrega el mash l'mala mimenu, right? Because that can lead to, right? Because if you do that, then that victory will lead you to an even greater victory that you can have. Ki bimheira tia tushukato elecha velo, and because his desire is constantly at us, velo yamod lefanecha ba'amdecha kenegdo, right? But he will fold if you will stand against him, as it says, and this is talking about after Cain killed Hevel, Cain killed Abel, right? The pasuk says that Hashem says to Cain, "Im teitiv se'et," if you will improve your ways, then you will be lifted up, right? And if not, the sin will always be crouching by your doorway. Ve'elecha teshukato, his desire is for you. However, the atatim sholbo, you have the ability to overcome that. You have the ability to withstand the temptation that comes your way, or whatever it is that comes your way. That's the simple meaning as he's explaining it. Ve'elecha teshukato, this inclination wants you, is coming at you. V'atatim sholbo, but you've got the ability to overpower him. Another way of understanding this pasuk, this verse, goes back to what I said before, that he wants to be beaten. He wants to be beaten. That's his job. His job is to challenge us and then to fold. And he wants to be beaten. And that's in these words also. Ve'lecha teshukato v'atatim sholbo. To you is his desire that, not and you can overpower him, but that, v'atatim sholbo. His teshukah, his desire is that you shall overpower him. I told you the mashal of the king who wanted to know how the people felt about him, and he goes into the high class and he says the king's a scoundrel, and people say, here, cheers, you're right. He goes into another class, and the king's a scoundrel, they start to pummel him. So when he's being hugged, it hurts him. When he's being pummeled for daring to speak against the king, which of course himself, then he feels good when he's being pummeled. That is the Yetzer Hara. Ve'lecha teshukato. His desire is that v'atatim sholbo. His desire is that you shall rule over him. V'al kain, and therefore al yavilecha dvaro v'im atzmo chayalav, and therefore don't be shook up before him, even though he's got great weaponry, great soldiers. V'al yafchidech inyano, don't be frightened by him. V'im ravu ozrav, even if there are many things that might be helping him. Ki iker kavanato, what it wants to do is la'amet hasheker, to present falsehood as being true. Meaning, right, this counterfeit desire will make you feel better, but it's sheker. It will not, right? Saying this will get it off your chest, right? Let them know who that is, right? That's the right thing to do. It's not the right thing to do. And you won't feel better afterwards. And you're going to create a lot of havoc in that relationship. And a lot of, I always say, famous, when it comes to our words, before we say it, we control it. Once we say it, it controls us, right? But we think, oh, let me give them a piece of my mind, right? And we think, and that's going to help the situation. That's la'amet hasheker, to take something that's false and convince us that it's true. Umegamad chefzo, and the root of his desire is lahamid hakazav, to take that which is false and to stand it up, make it upright, to appear as if as if it has legs. The kamehi krovam apalato vivudom maher, but being that it's all based on falsehood, so it can be easily overturned. Kamihi krova, how close, how in such close proximity is mapalato, is it's being turned over, the ibudo, and it's being lost, maher. Im targish l'chul shato, if only we will recognize just how weak and just how vulnerable it is, and the arguments that it makes. Like the Chacham, King Solomon said in Kohelet, Ir Katana. There's a small city. We'll soon see the small city is the human being. Vanashim Ma'at, with very few people there. Uba le'amelech gadol, and there came against it a great king. V'sibeivota, and he surrounded it. Ubana alea mitsudim gedolim, and built these big fortifications around it. Umatza ba'ish miskein chacham, and there was in there one person, an older person, who saved that entire city with his wisdom. And no one had given any lo zachar, right? No one had given any had accredited any real power to that person. What is this parable that King Solomon and Shlomo Melech is speaking about in Koheles? Et ha'adam, a human being. Himshil Shlomo, Shlomo compares to Le'ir Ktana, to a small city. V'neishahu ha'olam ha'katan, a person we know is referred to as a miniature world, a microcosm of the world, right? We say you save a single life, it's if you saved an entire world. Every person is an entire world with all the things that go on in our minds and all the things that we're dealing with and all of our history and all of our concerns. Every person is a world in and of themselves. And that's why famously we say in Pirkei Avos that Havidanet kol ha'adam l'kaf schus, which is normally translated, you should judge every person l'kaf schus, in a favorable manner, because you don't know what's really going on with that person, right? So therefore, cut them some slack. But actually the wording is not, you should judge every person. The wording is, Havidan et kol ha'adam. You should judge the entire person l'kaf schus, in a favorable manner. Right? How can you judge the entire person? Only if you know all that went on in that person's life, all that's going on, all their past, all their present, all their concerns about their future. And no one can, we don't even know that about ourselves. We don't have a clue about ourselves, so we don't know about anyone else. And therefore, we don't judge. But that's the Ir Katan is the person who is a world. V'nei shu'olam katan, et evarav, vet midot nafsho, and our limbs and our temperament, our midot, that is referred to as anashim ma'at, a few people. Why? Meisheim ma'at. Sorry, I was reading the wrong place. Meishol Gatan, Selakol Gufei Umidot Navsho, Banashim Ma'at, Umato Etzlo, Keneged Goldel Lev Ha'adam. And our willpower, our ability to stand up, we view that as little, as just a few men, right? Vis-a-vis the Lev Ha'adam, vis-a-vis the heart of the person, which he compares to, right? Like this Melech Gadol, our passions, our wants, our desires, our inclinations, our tendencies, our habits. V'orech ma'uyav b'olam hazeh, right? And that which we have throughout our stay here in this world. V'chesron kocho v'hasagato otam, right? And we think that it doesn't, that we don't have so much power against it. The Sipur al Yetzer, and we describe the Yetzer as a Sar Hagadol, as a great king, a great officer. L'rov Chayalosav, with all of his masses of armies. V'anashav, and men, v'tzivosav, and hosts that he has. V'amar, it says, v'sivev oto, and this king surrounds this city. And often we feel surrounded by challenges going on all around us. Meishu makif kol inyanei hadam, because it surrounds every dealing that we have. Achitzonim b'nir'eyu v'nistaro, that which is on the outside, that which is apparent, v'nistaro, and that which is going on inside of us. Uvamar, and Shlomo again, the King Solomon said in his parable, Uvana aleha mitsudim gedolim, and he built these big mitsudim, these big fortifications. Lerov hir horav haraim, umakshavosav haraos, umikrav megunim, right? Because of all of our past stumblings with our thoughts and our and all these other things that we might have done. And then to convince a person, right? Just give in. Why are you fighting to be this upright person? Just give in to your temptations left and right. As we'll explain later on in this shar. But then King Solomon goes forward and says in his parable, but there was in that city a person who had, how do they define miskein, chacham? Chacham means wise. How does Sefaria define the miskein, chacham?
It says a poor wise man.
Oh, miskein. Okay, right. Simple, a poor wise man. Thank you, Robin. Ratzaloma ala seichel. What's that referring to? That refers to our seichel, our intellect, that which we know we should do. Umash lav miskein, right? That we say that he is miskein, that he's poor. Neshanashavos rav matim, because his helpers, right? The support system for that is often very, very small. As it says, V'adam lo zachar, no one remembered it. V'amar, v'chachmata miskein bezuya, the wisdom of that poor person is bezuya, is dismissed. V'im chulshuto, but with all of that weakness, kvar siper mihirat tishukata yetzer alav v'ilachmo bo, how the yetzer wants to go and fight against. V'shazkato mistaleket me'al ha'adam b'niklah, but how this poor, old, wise person was able to save the entire city. Ki amina'at mina emet inatseach harbe mina sheker. A little bit of truth overwhelms a whole wave of falsehood. Kasher ma'at min ha'or, in the same manner that a little bit of light, doche harbe min ha'choshech, that pushes off a lot of darkness. And that's the mashal that he's giving here. The Gemara, the Talmud in Sukkah, actually gives a parable, or tells a story, I should say, of in the time to come, Hashem is going to take out the Yetzer Hara and show him for what he really is. And it says there that tzaddikim will be crying, saying, such a big mountain, how did we overcome it? And the Rishaim, the evildoers, will be crying, saying, such a little hair, how did we repeatedly slip and trip on it? And the question is asked, well, in the world to come, that's a time of truth, where perception is accurate. So how could it be that the tzaddikim view it as a mountain, and the Rishaim, the evildoers, view it as a little hair? What is it? This is the world, the point of truth. So is it a mountain or is it a hair? And the Beis Halevi, one of the great the founder really of the whole Brisk, the rabbis of Brisk dynasty, he explains very, very, very powerfully as follows: both are true. It depends what is your vantage point. If it's in front of you and you have not given in, then it is this large mountain. Once a person has given in and they're looking back on it, then they recognize that it wasn't all that it was piped up to be, and they recognize that it was a little hair. But that's the miskein chacham, that poor wise person who's able to bring off the battle by choosing truth and choosing light. V'yesh bazeh ha'ara al milchamot ha'ta'avot. And this is to give us an understanding of the war that we have against different desires and impulses that we have. L'amod keneged ha'yetzer, to stand up against these impulses, these inclinations, v'hishtadlut, with effort, v'charitzut, and with tremendous strength. Kikvar nidbara lanu chulshato me'amod lifnei hasechel. Because, in fact, right, its ability to stand against seichel, to stand against when we use our mind and we don't get all caught up in it, its ability to stand against that is weak. Umihirut hinagfo lefanav, and how quickly it will fold before us when we are committed to doing what's right and not giving in to different temptations. Kamosha Amar HaKatuv, like the pasuk says, Shachu Re'im Lifnei Tovim. The Ra'im, the evildoers, Shachu, they end up bowing down, Lifnei Tovim, before the Tovim. So that is those are the battles that we always have, that are always coming against us. And we'll see next week, he'll start to go through all of the different levels that he comes. The first level will be that there is no afterlife. It's just the physical world. Whatever is. Once it's over, it's all over. Nothing continues after that. Then he'll go on to say, he'll go through all of these Yetzer Hara arguments that are presented to us that we struggle with, right? And it's interesting, similar to what we said at the Haggadah. We spoke about the four sons, and many of the commentators say, right, there's the Chacham, the wise, the Rasha, the evildoer. There's the Tam, the simple one. There's Ein Yodea Lishol, the one who does not know how to ask. And it's not necessarily four different sons, right? It's each and every one of us at different points in our lives, different points in our weeks, or different points in a day that we go through, the times that we're all eager. Oh, tell me more. Why are we doing all this? Other times like, oh, why are we doing all this? Right? And we ourselves go through all of these different phases, right? And we have to know how to respond to ourselves for each of these. And so too over here, right? These questions are questions that plague everyone at different points in our lives, at different points in the day, different points in how connected or how motivated we're feeling. And those are the battles, like I said before, that are why, according to a Torah understanding, that is why we are living, in order to have these challenges and to become better. The story is told, and with this, that someone came to the Kuska Rebbe, right? The Kutzka, right? And he said, Rebbe, you have to daven for my son, right? He's like 14 years old, whatever he was, but he's such a tzaddik, and he's such a Talmid Chacham. Right? He's such a scholar, and he davens like you wouldn't believe, right? You've got to pray for him, right? And he said, and the Kutzka said, you're killing your son. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, if your son is such a tzaddik and such a Talmid Chacham, if he's already, then there's nothing left for him to do over here. Then it's time for him to leave this world. He's not such a tzaddik. He's not such a this. There's plenty more challenges for him along the way. There's plenty more growth phases, growth opportunities for him. And that's why he should be granted life, in order to reach those stages. So as long as we're living, we struggle. As I said to Yaakov, when he finished fighting with that angel, he was named Yisroel, Kisarita, because you struggled. And Klal Yisrael, we are strugglers. Meaning life is always presenting challenges, and it's always a struggle for us, challenges, to become the best version of ourselves. Okay, my friends, we'll call it over here. Where are we up to in Sefaria?
15. We'll start on 15.
5:15.
Right?
Beautiful.
Does that sound right? 5:15? Because we just read
Okay.
14, I think.
Good. Perfect. Thank you. Great seeing everybody. Everybody feel well, be well, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bye. Thank you.